It's 6 p.m. on a Sunday here in Korea. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daniel Choy. Let's start with some positive news with regards to the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome outbreak here in South Korea. As of today, there have been no new cases for 21 straight days. The health ministry says the number of confirmed cases remains unchanged at 186. The death toll also remains unchanged at 36, with no additional fatalities reported for 14 days. 12 people are still hospitalized, while 138 have been discharged following complete recoveries. 11 of the 12 have tested negative for the disease. The Korean government is expected to announce a de facto end to the MERS outbreak this week. An official declaration will come later. 2 Chinese travel agencies will begin a joint campaign aimed at sending 100,000 Chinese tourists to South Korea within 100 days. According to the China Daily, Wanda Tourism, an affiliate of Chinese property conglomerate Dalian Wanda Group, and Tongcheng Network Technology, an online travel agency, will get the ball rolling in mid-August. The project is expected to give a boost to Korea's tourism industry, which has been hit hard by the MERS outbreak. In June, the number of Chinese visitors to Korea fell by more than 45% from the year before. The number of unemployed people in their 20s has hit a record high here in Korea. Young people are struggling to find stable jobs, and so they're turning to part-time or temporary work, meaning they become unemployed again in just a few years. Our Kim Min-ji takes a look at the discouraging digits.
410,000. That was the number of unemployed people in their 20s in Korea during the first half of this year. It's the highest figure since relevant data began to be compiled in 2000. The figure stood at around 330,000 after the global financial crisis and then declined slightly in 2013. But overall, the number has been going up. Experts point to a slow economy as the main reason for the upward trend. But they also say employment conditions last year were quite favorable, and in fact the number of newly employed people rose by over 530,000 from a year ago, the highest jump in 12 years. Of that, 56,000 were in their 20s. Now, while that may not sound like bad news, among the 20-somethings that had found jobs, most of them were in temporary or part-time positions. Simply put, that means it will only be a matter of time before the same people have to go looking for jobs again. As of May, more than a third of people in the 15 to 29 age bracket who had jobs were working either in part-time or temporary positions. 1 in 5 also find similar kinds of jobs as soon as they're out of college. In order to reverse the trend, the government plans to lay out measures for tackling youth unemployment in the coming week. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
In other news, Korea will eliminate tariffs on a host of high-tech products as part of a $1 trillion global trade deal. The Korea International Trade Association confirmed today a list of 201 items, to enjoy tariff relief under the WTO's Information Technology Agreement. They range from semiconductors to computer parts. Korea is one of 80 WTO countries, partly to the accord on which negotiators reached tentative agreement last week. Experts expect the accord to benefit Korea, whose semiconductors and mobile phone sectors rank among the best in the world, by boosting exports. Some say, however, Korea may not feel the benefits as strongly because it is already enjoying the benefits of lower tariffs under concluding FTAs with the US and the EU. The global trade in IT products is worth about $4 trillion annually, and the deal would see tariffs lifted for goods that make up about a quarter of that. It looks like South Korean retail giants HTC, Shilla Dutyfree, and Hanwha Galleria Time World are set to open their new stores in downtown Seoul much earlier than planned. The initial date was early next year, in time to welcome Chinese tourists using their Lunar New Year holiday to fly to Korea. But after waiting 15 years for a license to open duty-free stores, both companies said they felt the need to speed things up. The blueprints are almost ready for the HTC Shilla store in the iPark Mall at Yongsan Station, and what's said to be one of the largest duty-free shops in the world will be ready for business come December. Hanwha Galleria Time World plans to open its duty-free complex on the first basement level and floors 1 through 3 of the 63 building on Yeouido Island in Seoul before December. More evidence proving Japan was close to developing a nuclear weapon during World War II has emerged. According to the Sankei Shimbun on Sunday, 2 blueprints for a centrifuge for uranium enrichment were among the articles left by a close aide of Bunsaku Arakatsu, the foremost nuclear scientist in Japan in the 1940s. Prior to this discovery, 3 notebooks from 1944 belonging to another Arakatsu aide, Sakae Shimizu, were found at Kyoto University. They contain handwritten notes on equipment to produce weapons-grade uranium. The institute, previously known as Kyoto Imperial University, was charged by the Japanese Navy with studying the feasibility of developing an atomic weapon. The project was hindered by chronic shortages of raw materials and constant disruption by air raids, and was abandoned in April 1945. Officials from South Korea, the U.S., China, and Japan related to the long-stalled 6-party nuclear disarmament talks continue to meet to try to bring North Korea back to the dialogue. But hopes of a breakthrough appear slim. Our Na Young-young explains why.
The United States Special Envoy to the 6-party talks, Sidney Seiler, started a week-long trip to South Korea, China, and Japan over the weekend. Seoul says he's scheduled to hold meetings with South Korean government officials, including Seoul's top nuclear envoy Hwang Jun-guk, on Monday to talk about North Korea policy. Seiler will then fly to Beijing and Tokyo later in the week. Seiler's trip to Seoul comes after Hwang met with Chinese officials, including his counterpart Woo Da-wei in Beijing last week, where he reportedly asked for China's support in dealing with North Korea. Observers see Seiler's visit as part of Washington's efforts to build on the momentum of the landmark nuclear deal it struck with Iran earlier this month, but many doubt a similar kind of deal will be possible with Pyongyang.
It's totally illogical to even think about striking an Iranian-style nuclear deal with North Korea when the U.S. is constantly conducting large-scale joint military drills against the regime and posing the biggest nuclear threat.
Seiler's visit also comes after the U.S. blacklisted a Singapore-based shipping company over allegations it is supporting illicit arms shipments to North Korea. The U.S. Treasury has frozen the company's assets in the U.S. The firm has denied the allegations. With Washington trying to spur efforts to resume the 6-party talks aimed at denuclearizing North Korea, the question now is whether the related officials will make meaningful progress in the coming week. Na Hyun-kyung, Arirang News.
The chairman of Korea's ruling Saenuri Party, Kim Moosung, has expressed his deep appreciation to the U.S. veterans who fought in the Korean War. Kim, who's on a 9-day visit to the U.S., gave a group of American war veterans and their families in Washington, D.C. a deep bow, explaining it's Korea's way of showing its respect and gratitude. This is after he told a group of Korean reporters in D.C. that the U.S. is Korea's unrivaled and irreplaceable ally. Kim then pledged to work further to develop bilateral ties between Seoul and Washington. During his visit, which will also take him to New York and Los Angeles, Kim is also expected to meet with U.S. congressional leaders as well as UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to discuss North Korea policy. This year marks the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan. At the same time, it's also been 70 years since the Korean peninsula was divided into 2 nations. As a symbol of hope for reunification, the metal fence that separates the South and the North has been transformed into a musical instrument. Won Ji-yeon helps us take a closer look at this powerful artwork.
The cold wire fence that stands between the 2 Koreas. It's a symbol of hostility and division. But this year, the barbed wires were reborn into a symbol of peace and unification thanks to a joint project between South Korea's Unification Ministry and Jail Worldwide. Under the project, wires from the metal fence were used as strings in a grand piano called the Piano of Unification. And living up to its name, the piano can create a musical harmony that commemorates the 70th anniversary of the division between the 2 Koreas.
After playing the Arirang's folk song on this piano, I was powerfully reminded of how it's the only tune that both South and North Koreans can sing together. I'm waiting for that day to come when we can all sing together.
It took the team 3 months to collect the rusty wires from the demilitarized zone with the help of South Korea's frontline military units. The piano of Unification is currently on display at the Seoul Museum of Art, and it will be featured on stage at the upcoming Choral Festival on August 15th, or Korea's Liberation Day.
If people can sing along the tunes created by barbed wires that symbolize division, I think we can be a bit more optimistic about reunifying the two Koreas.
Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
And now for a quick look at the weather before we go. Fortunately, Korea will feel little to no impact of Typhoon Halula as it weakens and veers of course. We can, however, expect showers nationwide tomorrow, but we're only seeing around 5 to 30 millimeters of rainfall. It will also be very humid with the mercury rising beyond 30 in Seoul, Daegu, and Changwon. Well, that's Korea for you. Let's shift our focus outside of Korea to other parts of the world and in your neck of the woods. We've come to the end of our newscast. Thank you so much for watching. For more, do join us again at 10 p.m. Korea time.